on the Texas A&M Sports Network. From Learfield, welcome to the Aggie Football Hour, brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, a leader in agricultural financing. Also brought to you in part by Coors Light, Choose Chill, and Gig 'em Aggies. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly. Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Visit Rudy's.com to find real Texas barbecue near you. Twisted Tea, hard iced tea for the 12th man. Please drink responsibly. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas. Through it all. And by Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. Now, the Aggie Football Hour, brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, a leader in agricultural financing. Here's the voice of the Aggies, Andrew Monaco.
Howdy. Wonderful to see everyone here at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. It is the Aggie Football Hour. Mike Elko, presented by Capital Farm Credit. Next to me, the head coach of the 7-1 Aggies, 5-0 in the SEC. Howdy, Mike Elko.
Howdy, Mr. Jinx Man. Let's not change the introduction.
Okay,
Let's just
gotcha.
keep it consistent.
Gotcha.
Let's stick to the next one.
You got it.
Keep doing our thing around here.
Howdy. So you don't want me to bring up the little coach awards that you got?
We do not need to discuss those yet. None of those mean very much right now. So
let's revisit Saturday. Can I start with an electric atmosphere?
Oh, my gosh.
Kyle?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and to anybody in the audience who was there, thank you. To anyone who's listening at home, thank you. It's funny because I still chuckle, like, when we went through the spring game, and there was a couple questions at the conference about, like, the attendance at the spring game, and I tried to I was still in polite mode at that time, and so I didn't want to say anything to the media to the contrary, but I was like, of all the things we're questioning, is this really it? And, it was a special night in the opener against Notre Dame. It was a phenomenal atmosphere that night. Unfortunately, we didn't get the job done, and, for them to all come back and even more in force, in black, to support their team the way they did certainly willed us, and you could tell all night they were just waiting for something. And when we hit the touchdown in the second half to get it to 17-14, it was like an explosion in there, and it really never stopped from that point to the end of the game.
The momentum flipped, never gave it back, Mike. And that's a fickle thing, momentum in a game, isn't it?
No, and that's the role that the crowd can play sometimes, right? Obviously, the kids still have to go out and make plays, and they certainly did that. But like when you talk about what is the advantage of playing at home, it feels like a whitewash that you just can't stop when you're on the other side, because everything that we're doing is creating this eruption, and it does. It rattles the nerves, it rattles the mind. It's a really hard thing to deal with when you're on that other sideline.
We're going to talk about in the next segment about A&M's Players of the Week, but I just wanted to say that you had players that you're going to compliment from LaPorte and DeSoto and Bryan, Houston Heights and Katie Pato and Shiner and Temple. And I bring that up because the Texas High School Coaches Appreciation Day is coming up on Friday. And when you were hired here, Mike, you made sure that was, of the many things that you had to do, that was important for you. Reach out, so inclusive of that. Friday's that Appreciation Day for the Texas High School coaches. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just it's a tremendous partnership. And I think the thing that I've always told those guys is this. There's two different elements of this, right? There's recruiting, and part of that is obviously starting at home and the recruiting relationships and being true to Texas kids. And I'm sure over the years there's going to be kids coaches want us to take, and you deal with all of that stuff, and you just try to be open and honest through it all. That's one side of it. But the other side of it is a relationship and a bond that never goes away when you're a program like Texas A&M in a state where high school football is as important as it is in Texas. And it's for us to be a resource, for us to be there to develop young coaches, to help cultivate young coaches, to be open, to have access. Like, all of those things just matter when you're Texas A&M in a state where football is what it is in the state of Texas. And so, that relationship is so deep on so many levels, and it's great that we have an appreciation day on Friday, and so wake up every Saturday morning and check the scores. I know the two local high schools are still on a collision course maybe for round 4 to play again in Kyle this year if they can get there. And so, it's a big part of what we are and what we do.
And personal for you, because when you were here, your kids go into those schools.
For sure. I don't ever miss the local ones, and it's funny because my younger son's a senior now in high school, and so like I went out when I got here and went over to Consol and College Station, but the first place I went to was Consol, and they were practicing, and I had a bunch of kids come up to me. I'm like, okay, you were at my house, and you were at my house, and you were like this tall when you were at my house last time, but I remember you, and so yeah, there's a part of it that's that. There's a part of it that's my familiarity from being in the town. There's still kids and names that I know and recognize from when I was here last time. Still kids who were friends with my children. It's what made coming back here so unique for me and my family with the ties that we have to the area.
Also on Saturday, you get all that momentum, not just from the game, but recruiting, and not just football, all the sports as well. But that's another thing that makes this past Saturday so special, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And you mentioned all the sports, and I think it is, right? Like who goes to that game Saturday and doesn't think that's a really cool place to go to school? You know, if you're a football player, for sure, right? That's one of the most electric atmospheres they'll ever be part of, if not the most, right? Until they get here the next time and we have the next big game in there, right? But then if you're a basketball player, if you're a women's basketball player, if you're a women's golfer, like whatever it is, and you're there and you see the spirit of the 12th man, you see what Texas A&M is, the traditions, what we do, what we stand for, like it's hard to walk away from that and not be like, yeah, this is, I'm in, like sign me up, where do I sign? Yeah. Certainly got me, the first time I was here and we went out and played Clemson in that big game, I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like this is pretty amazing, so I'll be here for as long as you'll have me.
Yeah, it's something special. Like I said, electric. We talked before the game and I said that for your teams, you do not just want to play in these, you want to win these. You gave yourselves an opportunity. This Saturday is another one, but by winning, does that add to the confidence of this team and understand what it takes to win on a Saturday? It's not just being at home and walking on that field. Are they starting to get that preparation is what's leading to Saturday's victories?
Yeah, for sure. And it was funny. We had this moment. I don't think we didn't talk about this, I don't think, last week, but there was a moment in the beginning of the week going into the LSU game, which I thought was really interesting because I did this at the start of the year. So when the Monday meeting before Notre Dame, I said, all right, someone raise your hand and tell me what we need to do this week to beat Notre Dame. And we have these like plan to win pillars, right? They're posted in the team room. There's this huge sign in the hallway. They're in the meeting rooms. It's like literally all over the place. And I had kids raising their hand talking about like, we got to run the ball. We got to do this. And none of them were the pillars. And I was like, I knew that's kind of how it would be because it was part of building the mentality we were trying to build. And so I stopped them and I said, no, what we have to do is we have to win the turnover battle. And I just started pointing to the pillars. Well, I did the same thing. I hadn't touched it since. I did the same thing on the Monday at LSU. And I said, okay, tell me what we have to do. This is a huge game, big game, huge atmosphere, all of this. Tell me what we have to do this week to win. And one by one, each kid raised his hand and rattled off one of the pillars, right? And that's when you feel as though, okay, like they're at least starting to understand. They're starting to understand what we're trying to do. They're starting to understand what this is all about. Does that guarantee success? No, right? But at least we're starting to come and understand what does it take to prepare, play, the things that we have to do that really matter. And if you look at what those pillars are, it's win the turnover margin. We did that 3-1. It's win our special teams game changers. We were +7, which was our best score all year. It's win the fourth quarter, which we won 17-6. And those were the things that we did. And those are the things that ultimately lead to the results, and we're starting to understand that a little bit.
Is that also part of consistency of message? It didn't change because it was a loss to Notre Dame, and we're going to change all of this. They're saying that every week, and now they're speaking your language, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's our language, right? That's what you ultimately want it to be, is you want it to be our language. And that's what we always talk about. Like when you get into these games, it's naive to not say there's not some stages that are bigger than others, that there's not games that are looked at differently than others. But at the end of the day, like that's what winning is. Right. And so, okay, we're on a big stage at home. Cool, this is winning. Right now, next week, we've got to go to a raucous crowd. It's going to be a rowdy environment. They're going to be waiting for us, coming fresh off of a bye. There's going to be some other elements to it. But at the end of the game, we got to find a way to do those things because those are the things that are winning football.
He is Mike Elko, head coach of Texas A&M. This is the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We'll return to Rudy's after this. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. How the Ags look for your opportunities this season for your chance to win Texas A&M prizes from the Texas Lottery. The Texas Lottery proudly supports Texas education and veterans. Play the Texas Lottery today. Scratch 'em tickets and gig 'em. From Apex, North Carolina, from Salinas, California, from Wisconsin, from Amarillo, from Dallas, Walt, who is normally here, is in Dallas, so he has checked in. Brownsboro and Blanco, we thank you so much. And Troya and Vicky Walling, we say hello to you as well. To your players of the week, it is Trey Zune and Demetrius Crownover. In a matchup, we talked about the line of scrimmage. You had two of the better ends and edge rushers in the SEC, Zune and Crownover, get the offensive lineman of the week, didn't they?
Yeah, and we've talked enough about Zune, but certainly Demetrius Crownover's done a phenomenal job of getting better every week, and first time really in a starting role and really developing. And I think that was our biggest challenge to date. Was what those two edge kids presented, and I thought for the most part we held up well.
Coach Cushing pushed him. Demetrius told us he pushed him, and Demetrius said, I am winning this job. It's really the testament to all the work Demetrius has done, is it not?
Yeah, and it goes back to like why competition's important, why having depth is important. And Deuce Father has had a really good year too, and those two kids have been in a constant competition all year, and I think you've seen an elevated play from both of them. It's why a TJ Shanahan and a Cam Dewberry continue to get better. It's people lose sight of some of those little things, but the depth we were able to accrue was really important.
And it's paid off so far this year.
Well, it has.
Yeah.
We're not talking about not having Chase Basantis in the game and how that impacted us, right? And I think that's just a testament to one, the job Coach Cushing's doing, and two, I think what those kids are doing to continue to get ready and be prepared and be ready when their number's called.
On the defensive line, DJ Hicks, and I'm sure, Mike, you have seen him. Like I say, it's bubbling under, right? He's just ready, and that seemed to be the one where your eyes went right to 13. He played so well.
Yeah, and it's really cool, and he's another really cool story because here's what we're trying to make Texas A&M be about. He's a 5-star. He's an extremely high-level recruit. He's extremely talented, but has really this year bought into like the craft of the game, the preparation in the game, right? And now his production is elevating week in and week out, right? And he's not just an athletic player who flashes. He's now becoming a really talented player who's extremely productive, play in and play out. And when you look at our defensive tackle rotation right now, we've got 4 that we're able to play very easily, and you don't blink when you look out there and it's Rodis Johnson and DJ Hicks. Okay. Mm-hmm. Or it's DJ and Shamar Turner, or it's Al and it's like you just look out there and it's like, okay, well, whoever's out there, and it's really good. And we have other kids in the program that are trying to crack it, and it's a hard too deep to crack right now.
DJ Hicks, I had the opportunity to listen when Elijah was talking about how you recruit, and it was McKinley Jackson and DJ Hicks,
yeah.
And how in the course of 4 years it changes a little bit, and how you personalize it. But I also noticed the relationship that McKinley had with DJ, and you love being able to have, if you keep talking about player-led, and I know McKinley's not here any longer, but you can see that part of his legacy will be on these younger players, that he was able to either mentor or they got to see what he did every snap. So there's going to be a younger player who's going to see both Shamars, what they do every snap and what Cash is, right? That's huge, is it not, Mike?
No, for sure. And I think if you go back to, when we got here in 2018, Elijah and I, and where the D-line was, we had some guys. You had Kingsley Kiki. Mm-hmm. You had Landis Durham. You had some of those older veteran guys. Michael Clemens was starting to come into his own. And I think Elijah and the late, great Terry Price did a really good job of bringing that group together. And then you just look at what it's been since 2018, mm-hmm. from those guys to then Bobby Brown shows up and Justin Matabike and DeMarvin Leal. And, I mean, we have had a run of defensive linemen that rivals any team in the country over the last 6 years. And now you look at what's out there with the first group, and you look at what comes off the bench right now, and we're stacked like a defensive line in this league needs to be successful.
Where the opposing offensive line can't even take a breath, right? They think they're getting the twos.
Right.
They're not twos, right?
No.
It's just a collection of ones.
No, and it's funny because, these things matter. I think they matter to kids, so because of that, they matter to me and they matter to us. But, DJ Hicks is, we put starters in first class on the plane, and DJ's on the first class. And when we do the starters on the video board, DJ's name is up there, right? You don't have to just be in the 11 to be able to impact the game for us, right? And I know starting matters for sure, and we never de-emphasize what it means to be a starter, but sometimes you have three really good ones, right? And Albert Regis has elevated his game so high that he just happened to be ahead of DJ when the season starts and has done nothing to relinquish it. And it keeps coming back to this comment I make, but it happens, and it's what's driving us to our success is, well, a lot of kids at that point just throw their hands up and pout, and DJ didn't, right? He said, okay, well, I'm going to play Al's going to play 40, I'm going to play 40. I'm going to play the best 40 snaps I can. I'm going to keep improving. I'm going to keep better. If an opportunity ever presents myself, I'm going to take it. But I'm going to embrace this role that I have. And I think he's gotten so much better every week that legitimately now we can put anyone on the field and feel very comfortable.
Albert Regis said on Monday, best D-line he's ever played with. You were extremely complimentary. You said, Albert's the reason why that's the best defensive line. And that's, again, we focus so much on the matchups on the edges, and I totally get it, right?
Yeah.
But I thought the interior helped turn some of that tide in that game because the Aggie that interior was so good. You shouted out Shamar Turner as well.
Yeah, here we are having a D-line conversation. We haven't even talked about Shamar Turner, who's probably going to be a first-round draft pick, right? And who's been an absolutely dominating force for us. And that's the situation we're in, and it's a key reason to why we've had the success that we've had. And you keep coming back to this. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I know we were plus 200 or more in rushing yards. You do that in an SEC football game, you're going to be hard to beat.
And LSU likes to throw. You get it. But they became more one-dimensional, and every time LSU has had success, even if it's just against Texas A&M, was because of the running backs that they have, and maybe even throwing to them. But when they could run, to take that away, it's still hard, right? It's a very talented LSU team. It's still hard, but that was a huge disparity, was it not?
No, for sure. And I think it speaks a little bit to our growth as a program over the years because, it was the first, 6 years in the league. We didn't beat LSU once. And I remember watching that last one before I got here because we played LSU in the Citrus Bowl the year I was at Notre Dame, and so we had broken down that A&M game and the physical mismatch and how they controlled the line of scrimmage, and I think they ran for 200-something yards, and to see where that was to how we've gotten to now where you can outrush them by over, I think it just speaks to where this program has come.
We'll get to the offensive side of those outstanding players when we return. Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. The Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko is presented by Capital Farm Credit, the largest agricultural lender in Texas. Capital Farm Credit, together, we're better. Sheridan, Blanco, Gilmer, Corpus, League City, and Burnett. Savannah, Georgia, Hobbs, New Mexico, Oklahoma City, Lexington, Virginia, Linden, California, and Seoul, South Korea. Checked in.
I appreciated you giving Apex the first shout out. I did. I heard that in the last one. I don't think I didn't notice that.
That's why I did.
Hi to my wife back in Apex who's watching the show right now.
I did it on purpose.
Her birthday, by the way, is coming up very soon. Friday.
Ooh, on Friday.
So.
Oh, happy birthday, Michelle.
Yeah, big night. Big day.
Absolutely.
I think she turns 25.
Again?
Yep. Yep, for the 15th year in a row.
Back to more of the players of the week. Boy, the one that I have.
You don't know where to go from that. You're a little stuck right now.
I have to be very careful.
I'm very whimsical too. Don't forget that about me.
I'm learning that, and I'm like, man, this segue could really get me in trouble. I may not be here next week.
Let's get back to the players of the week.
Let's do that. Hey, can I shout out two of the men of the 10 that jumped out at me? Amari Daniels with a block. And I know how hard he ran, and I know he ran for 91 yards, and we'll talk about him as the running back. His block, that was for Terry Bussey.
Yep.
And Trey Watson's for Marcel Reed for the touchdown.
For the touchdown.
Amari's not the same guy. There's something about getting to the hole as quicker than he does. He's stronger, but he's never lost his speed, has he?
No. And he's always been, like, the thing about Amari since the day he got here was he was always a very natural ball carrier, right? If you put the ball in his hands, like, that's the old – he's from Miami. He's been carrying the football since he was a little kid, and he was always really good at that. I think what he's really embraced – certainly since we've been here, is all the other stuff, right? The pass blocking, the ability to get out in the routes and catch the ball, the ability to go pancake someone on a lead jet sweep for Terry Bussey, right? Like, those are the things, again, that make you elevate to winning and not just being a good ball carrier, right? And so, yeah, he's embraced all of that. He's been really good for us.
You got to be complete, right? If you want to be a running back, you have to be complete.
Yeah, for sure. And those are all the, like, I appreciate you pointing those plays out because we talk about them a lot off the air, but, like, those are the things that lead to winning, right? And those are the things that we keep trying to point out to our guys about. Those are the little details, the little efforts, the little strains that ultimately get us where we want to go. And the other one that I thought was a huge one was, Marcel Reed runs the draw, and he gets stood up on the 2-yard line, and we've got about 4 offensive guys literally just push him right into the end zone. And you talk about those things all the time, and it happened to us on the last drive. Like, that ball ends on the 2. Like, who knows what happens? When you're playing SEC football, who knows? Like, 2 yards is an eternity sometimes, it feels like. And we scored that touchdown because we just were playing harder. And that matters.
And Marcel was your offensive player of the week. And again, just that energy was there.
Yeah, and like the other part of it is just the mindset for a freshman to handle this the way he has, right? And he plays in the bowl game. He has a phenomenal bowl game. He has a good offseason. He competes, and we wind up going with Connor. Connor starts, gets injured. Marcel has to step in, wins us 3 huge games. We make the decision to go back to Connor. He never blinks. He keeps going to work. He's the same kid. He's consistent every day. And when the time comes up to go back to him, he's locked in. He's ready to go, and off he goes, and he wins us a football game.
Can you explain, because you said this on Monday, you said it after Saturday as well. It wasn't all on Connor.
No. And listen, and I've said this to Connor, I've said this to Marcel, I've said this to every quarterback I've ever talked to. Me and the quarterback, we walk toe-to-toe in getting way too much credit and way too much blame for everything that happens. And that's just the natural evolution of it all. And so anytime the offense isn't functioning, all eyes immediately go to the quarterback, right? But when you think about an efficient passing game, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a rhythm and timing of the quarterback. There's a rhythm and timing of the routes and the tempo at which they're being run. Are they getting into the spaces in the right time? Are they getting disrupted? And nobody sees that because everyone's just seeing Connor with the ball, and we call passes and they don't work. And they don't work for such a variety of reasons. And part of that is Connor, and part of that is protection, and part of that is play calling, and part of we all own a share of the deficiency in the passing game right now, and you just get into it. And it's exactly what I said to Connor on the sideline was like, hey, listen, this has nothing to do with you, but we got to try something different. And we're going to go in a different direction, and that's really what it was.
And interesting, you have 2 baseball players who are quarterbacks who understand, you know what, you're being pinch hit for.
Yeah, and listen, it's hard. Right? Again, we don't hide from that. It was hard when we told Marcel he wasn't going to be the guy against Missouri. It's hard for Connor when we tell him we're going to Marcel in this big game right now. Like, it's hard, and all you're looking for is a level of professionalism from both of them to just say, like, it sucks. Like, and we talk like that. Like, yeah, it sucks. I know it does. But I'm going to get over that, and it's about something a little bit more than me right now, and then I'm going to be a good teammate, and I'm going to cheer my guy on, and then you see Connor all game, the first one on the sideline when Marcel comes off, right? And how much maturity is that to be dealing with it internally, and I'm sure the struggles of it, but to still be that teammate, to be there for his friend and his teammate.
Again, because of the notoriety of that position, but that's happening on your offensive line, your wide receivers, your running backs, your D-line, your linebackers, your safeties, your corners, your nickels, right? It's happening everywhere.
Correct, and nobody notices it at the other spots because it's not as prolific, right? And that's just how it goes. I haven't gotten very many questions about who we're starting at nickel or who we're starting at defensive end or no one wants to know that stuff. They just want to know about, what'd you screw up as the head coach and what's the quarterback's problem. That's all they ever ask about.
He's Mike Elko. This is the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Come on back. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. When you need a new roof or just have a pesky leak, you want to call on the winning team at Schulte Roofing, home of the bulletproof roof guarantee. Get the best. Visit SchulteRoofing.com. We continue. Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. And I failed to mention two other people for you. B.J. Mays was your defensive player, and you talk about momentum changes. B.J. Mays.
Right. How about that story?
It's outstanding.
The whole, when you think about the whole story, from incarnate word to 2 interceptions in the second half and helping us win against LSU, when you just think about this year's story, right? Another testament to just keep working. Right, keep working, and your opportunity will come. And sometimes you can make your opportunity for yourself, and he certainly has done that. And how critical were those 2 plays? And then to see the emotion from him, right? Like those are the moments that you remember, as especially the second one when he makes the pick and he kind of gets up and he takes off towards the student section, and it was awesome. It really was. So
here's a guy, you knew how good a corner he was, right? You need a nickel. You ask him. And his answer to you was, teach me.
Yeah.
Wait, that's something special, Mike. To me, that's even more impressive.
There's no doubt. And then the time that it takes, right? So just imagine, you're going into your last year of football. You decide to come to Texas A&M. You're competing to be the starting corner. You get injured. It doesn't work out that way. You go into the first couple games, and you're not playing a ton because of where we are, and the guys in front of you are playing well, and it's not creating the opportunity for you to get out there. And then your coach says, hey, do you want to try a brand new position right now? And you're like, yeah, sure, right? And then the time and energy it takes to learn that. And I think each week he's understood more and more of the package, more and more of the plan, more and more of what it takes to play that position, play in and play out. And then he goes out and it performs like that. And then he comes back to the validation, right? And that's the validation for everything that you're saying to these young people about, just keep going. You can't worry about all the external stuff. You can't worry about the noise. Just keep going and just make something for yourself. And that's success in life.
The other pick was Torian York, and what else jumps out at me as every time that Nussmeier went to the line of scrimmage, Torian was right there and signaled just, I think, quicker than Garrett Nussmeier did.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a heady player. And I think it's been really good for him. And again, another one, these stories, I can tell you these stories all night, right? But he doesn't have the greatest production in the world to start the year, right? And part of that is the way we're playing. He misses a couple plays that he normally makes, but those happen when you're playing middle linebacker. But really, the D-line is just suffocating some of these teams we're playing in the out-of-conference, and everyone's going, well, what's wrong with Tony? And all this noise, right? And just, just don't worry about it. The noise means nothing. Don't worry about it. Just keep playing. And then here we go, Mississippi State, 12 tackles, right? Here we go, last week, interception to win us the football game, continues to make plays. What a leader, right? The heart and soul of what we're doing from a leadership standpoint in our program. And those things are big. And so, just proud of him. And every kid deals with some of that stuff at some point in their career, right? Where it's just not going or clicking, or the stats aren't, or the PFF numbers, or whatever stupid rhetoric we're using out there. But internally, we know who he is. We know the kind of player he is, and just stick to your process. And we know who you are, and ultimately that will shine through, and it is now.
A couple of questions for you. When we come back to the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, it's presented by Capital Farm Credit. First, the 12th Man Foundation is the official fundraising organization and ticket provider for Texas A&M Athletics. Support a 75-year legacy and help shape the future of Aggie Athletics by donating today at 12thmanfoundation.com. Come on back to Rudy's. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Come visit Costa Vida in South College Station for Baja-style Mexican, made from scratch daily, serving breakfast tacos, lunch, and dinner. Aggie-owned and operated. That's our friend Holly Johnston, and a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. From behind enemy lines, Hanahan, South Carolina has checked in. Newport, Vermont, Huron, South Dakota. Here in Texas, Longview, Sugar Land, Buda, San Antonio, Katy, Pleasanton, El Campo, Tokyo, not in Texas. And once again, Doha, Qatar has checked in. Thank you all for doing that behind the mic for Learfield. Question time. Here we go. Coach.
Let's roll.
The LSU offense collapsed in the second half. How much of that was due to your superior conditioning? Asks Travis, class of 67.
I thought, let me word it this way, just so I'm careful. I thought it was very ironic that Coach Moffitt was once at LSU, had the boys a little bit fired up this week, and then in the fourth quarter, from a physical standpoint, it looked as though we ran away from it. We'll just leave it alone at that.
You got it. Travis, thank you. Steve asks, do you think future opposing quarterbacks have learned not to challenge Kyle Field?
You would certainly hope so. You would certainly hope so. I think I do chuckle at the fun we take on the video board and the different things that we put up. And listen, Nussmeier's a great quarterback. He's a great kid. He's an unbelievable competitor. I'm sure he said that at a harmless moment.
Yes.
Yeah. The beauty about our crew is we'll find it wherever you say it. So, like, you don't even have to. So, like, I think when it gets to game week, people are on their P's and Q's. Yep. But we'll go back. Like, so if you, like, thought about it, like in a team meeting like months ago, somehow we find it and we extract it and we pull it out of you. And so I think that's probably what happened last week.
Final player of the week, and I didn't mean to leave him for last. Tyler White, special teams, huge. That's those hidden yards that you always hear about, people talk about in a football game.
Yeah, so 5 punts, 3 of them net over 50 yards. They have an extremely dangerous returner. He has 0 return yards on the night. And of the 2 that don't net 50, he pins 1 on the 7-yard line. So I'm not sure you can do a ton better than he did for us in terms of field position.
And you're seeing him, he's not trying to outkick that coverage, right? It's really in concert, that punt return team, with how he's kicking.
Yeah, and I think that's the testament to him because, you know, he's got a tremendous leg. He can go out and bomb the football, but if he bombs it with no hang time in the wrong spot and he kicks it 60 and they return it 20, right, that doesn't help us. And so he's really bought into hang time, location, and he is. I mean, he's become an absolute weapon for us on special teams.
We'll talk about the opponent on Saturday, South Carolina, our final segment of the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. That's when we return. This is Aggie Football from Learfield.